see your video on the crystalline.
That's the one.
Okay, I did see it. Yes.
Okay. So then what we are going to do, because I explained it, I went through all of it and there's no need to, we're gonna focus our time on the pearls and the gates, because that was the part that I really wanted to look at. Like for me personally, I mean, I did peek at it, but I know that it's all connected. And so I didn't want to take the time to express it to everybody else. And when you left it up to me to choose a verse, I was like, yes, good. Then we get to finish digging this out. This is so amazing. So thank you.
Yes.
All right, let's go and pull it up. I'll do a screen share. I'm still dealing with a cough, so if it gets too bad, I will have to just go grab a cough drop, but I think I'm going to be okay. So. Here. One of the first things that I want to look at, and I'm going to have you kind of tell me what you see through the letters, if it, and for the, you know, for as we start it, I want to deal with this word right here, because 12 is a big number. 12 is very much connected to who we are in our processing. For some, they would say it's the 12 Aeons that we've lived in, and the unification of them. And so we see it on the gemstones on the breastplate, we see it on the 12 tribes, we see it through the 12 constellations. And 12, do you remember what the spiritual meaning is, or do you know what the spiritual meaning is of the number 12?
I think it's prophet, or one of the versions I read was that it was prophet.
I could see that. It's also perfection of government.
Mm.
So when it's perfection of government, we are definitely talking about our own personal sovereignty, or self-mastery as a good way of saying it. So this is a big number, and there's kind of some wonderful things to see in here. Because really what we're talking about here, and this is what I've connected, and this will help you when we break this word apart, we're talking about how to create not only ourselves in rebuilding ourselves, but what does it look like in the creation process between thought and form, the essence of that which is felt, and then the creative energy to manifest it. In the center of the word that you saw, the Ein Samek, this is dealing with the heart, and this is where the creation force makes it happen. So we're talking heart-brain coherence, you know, tying science and spirituality here, and you can totally see it in the language. That's why I get so excited. I'm like, yes, because I can see it. So this very word, let's take a look at it. I'm gonna break it down here. Let's see what let's take a look and see what they say the root of that is, because I see it. It's a compounded word.
Mm-hmm.
Tav, Resh, Ein, or Yod Nun. Tav, Resh, Yod Nun. Interesting. Yes, that is definitely compounded, because that is more two. Esar is 10. So this is they've taken the word, and this is something that you would need to pay attention to. You don't know this yet because you haven't learned the Aramaic shapes yet, and that's okay. So I'm helping you here. That just takes time in. You know, I don't have them memorized verbatim because I always defer to the Hebrew.
I have a cheat sheet somewhere.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a compounded word. Now, what they did, the Tav Resh Yod Nun, the Yod Nun is not there.
Not there. Yeah.
So power of the flesh. If the Nun is missing, then it doesn't have anything to do with progeny at all.
Okay. Because that's the seed, right?
Yes. This is, and because of that, because it doesn't have to deal with progeny, it doesn't have to do with physicality. So in other words, another way of saying this, if the Nun is removed, it means it's a highly spiritual matter that we're talking about here with you. Not with your family, not with your kids, not your parents, grandparents. This is you and only you, spiritually speaking.
Okay.
So that right there is a huge clue.
Yes.
This is what happens. This is why I see Hebrew and Aramaic have to be merged together. Mm-hmm. Because you'll get somebody that focuses solely on Aramaic, or you'll get somebody that solely focuses on Hebrew, and they never reconcile the two at all. So as she's looking at it, she didn't even, well, I'm not even sure, but she didn't even show that it was a conjugated word at all.
Uh-huh.
The only reason why I saw it is because I know a lot of the Hebrew words. And I'm like, well, Asar is 10. And then I already knew about the Trin as being 2. So there's nothing here. There is literally nothing here other than the numbers. But we know that the letters are saying a lot. The letters are, as you eloquently put it, by the way, I was looking at or reviewing one of our last ones about Romans 2:7, and you put it so eloquently. You said, the letters can tell you the whole story. So the translations might be manipulated, but the letters can't.
Yeah.
You said it differently than that, but it was beautiful.
Something like
And I
that.
was
Yes,
like, I
get it.
smiled deep. I was like, oh, that's so good. All right. So what we are seeing here, I'm going to show you something because this is important for you to see. I say this all the time, but it's true. The more time that you spend in the languages, the more you're going to catch, and you're going to see why the divine masculine shifts to the divine feminine in changing letters from Hebrew to Aramaic, and why. So she did connect us to a Hebrew word with the root of it of 2, not the 10, but the 2. And it's Strong's 8147. And it's the word shana in the root, but shanim, 2, a cardinal number, okay? This is so important. I want you to look at how it's spelled, though.
Shin and Yod, Mem.
And did you, in your mind's eye, do you remember how they spelled it in the other one? It was
with
Tav.
Tav Nun Yod. So what you said?
It was Tav. Here it is. Tav Resh Yod Nun.
Tav Resh Yod Nun.
So what is going on here? What is going on here? That's whenever I see something different like this, I have to ask myself questions. So it's feminine. So again, just because we're in Hebrew doesn't mean that Hebrew doesn't show feminine either. And it doesn't mean that in Aramaic it doesn't show the masculine. It's just that the divine feminine was never taught. It was suppressed. So we got it lopsided. But this is here. So this is a feminine form of a word that comes from the Shinai. You're gonna love this. So it means second, but we need to trace it all the way down to the root. So we have the word that means again. So it's not only double, but it means again. So keep that in mind, again. And then we have the word shana, where it's from, to repeat and to do again. This is a case for reincarnation.
Wow.
When I first saw this is why I wanted to go over this stuff, because it's so good. When I first saw this, because I was trying to come to terms with reincarnation, you know my story enough that when I started remembering things, my theology didn't fit it.
Yeah.
And I needed something to calm my heart down because I was freaking out and thought I need to go to a mental institution, and this word did it for me. I was like, oh my gosh, to repeat and do again. Okay, so repeating and doing again. It starts with the shin, nun, he, but then it transfers into Aramaic as tav, resh, yod, nun. The shin is also a representation of fire. Fire consuming. It's a representation of like a crown. These are kind of the esoteric hidden side of the letters. It is the consuming fire of God. It also can be connected to spirit as well, because you see how fire and wind come together to make flame happen. So it's connected to the spirit essence of it as well, which is the unseen that we feel in here. And of course it would tag team together, right? Because where I was saying, I felt like the spirit was saying this. Well, where do you usually feel it from? From here, not here. So it's the two working together, the fire of God and the spirit, that are producing change within you, that burning heart where you feel like I'm compelled to do something. So when we transfer over to the feminine aspect, look at one other meaning of this word.
Transmute.
To transmute. Okay,
So if
so
it's
that's
missing, then it's
huge.
already transmuted? Is that,
Views already went through the fire. The
yeah.
spirit, and so it translates, and the sheen now goes to the tav. So tav
Hmm.
is
The last
the
letter,
letter
the
for
end,
completion, the
completion,
end.
yeah. Hmm.
And then so then we move, and so the noon is well, the noon is shoved down. Well,
To the
okay, hold
end.
on. Yes, but in this sense, in the compounded word, it's been dropped. So it's been dropped both sides. So
Uh,
in the root of it, in Trin, it would have been there, but it got dropped too.
yes,
It got dropped, and so did the yod. They both got dropped. It's like the
yeah,
yod and noon got dropped, the noon and the hay got dropped. So what this is saying is we've already got the tav, we've already got the place of completion, right? The tav
yeah.
is already there. Now it's the REYSH, first fruit,
First fruit. Mm.
first fruit. Now, just to help you connect, like in Hebraic mindset, in looking at the scriptures, Hebraic, Aramaic, everything is agriculture, like we talk about. So first fruits is like the barley is the first of the fruits, first wheat is
Hmm.
the first fruits of the wheat. You know, it's that process of harvest that we're talking about here. Whenever we talk about the head too, we're talking about the head of the stalk, right? Of where the wheat and the barley is. But this
Yes.
is connected to sovereignty. And this is what I think is absolutely so beautiful with it. You know that the harvest is time when the heads bow, because
Mm.
the fruit is so heavy that it automatically makes their head bow.
Yes.
And you see this right here because even look at the imagery of the Vav.
Hmm.
The Vav has
Bowed
its
head.
head bowed.
Hmm.
So right here, this is saying, because it's bowed in the position, connecting to mother in humility and teachability, which allowed them to connect, complete through that fiery person is not there anymore. This is
Hmm.
their own journey. It has nothing to do with their progeny, and allowed them to raise their head. Sovereignty, first
Mm.
fruit.
Yes.
So we had to go through the fire, that essence of the winnowing, that process through the spirit that allowed us to reach this point.
Yes.
And this is why, again, connected to 12 is so important. So I want you to really connect to the breastplate. By the way, the word Essene, as in the Essenes, is a Hebrew
Yes.
word for breastplate, by the way.
Uh-huh.
So
Nice.
we're talking all about what covers the chest, which
Yes.
is, it has to do with heart maturation here.
Uh-huh.
Now, let's talk about what you saw here. There's another hidden word that I want to show you here, but you saw this.
Yes.
In your mind's eye, what is the Ein saying to you of what you remember Ein to be?
Iron speaks to me as seeing and being seen. And with the Samek there, with that, you and I looked at that letter quite in depth in our first one, and I just am reminded of security, hiddenness, safety, confidence and security and being seen is what I'm getting.
I love that. I also am going to add to that
Yes.
that it's also not only seeing confidence, because again, you're seeing it through the mirror of yours. So
Yes.
you're being seen as being confident, and it's in the heart, right? So it's in the heart
Mm-hmm.
level that we're talking about here because of the
Well,
flanking
yeah.
of the reshes, right? We got two reshes, one on either side. So in the middle of the two heads, one being mother, one being father, talking about the heart issue. So
Mm-hmm.
confidence of the heart, where you're secured, supported, propped up, hedged in. It's
Yes.
also it's also a symbol of the wedding ring and the signet ring.
Mm.
So we're talking about power and authority of the
Mm-hmm.
heart, and we're talking about wedding. So this is not a bride concept that we're talking about here.
Mm.
This is a
This is
queen
queen.
concept,
Mm-hmm.
aka wife.
Yes.
So I'm really glad that you saw that. So changing of the heart, moving from bride to queen. And it makes sense because it said they went through the fire and they completed the journey. So they're a
Mm-hmm.
sovereign.
Yes.
They're a first fruit. They're the top. And so the other part I'm going to show you here is with the Ein, not only is it to be seen, but it also is the ability to see yourself, to see, just to
Yes.
see. It's the eye. And this is talking about, because we were talking about the fire with a sense of spirit, we're talking about perception and perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Perception is that which we are feeling before we are completed. It's like there's that gentle nudging. When you are completed, you go into perspectives. One is subjective, the other is objective.
Mm.
In this sense, because it's the wedding ring and the signet ring, and we're talking about sovereignty, it is seeing from the objective standpoint, not the subjective.
Okay.
So again, to help with this, because I'm going into some deep stuff with here, but I want to expand kind of the way you're seeing these words. In order for you to draw out more, it's the looking at the combination of the letters of why they're there and why are they next to each other. Why would the Ein be next to the Samek? So it allows you to expand upon more than what you're seeing here.
Yes.
So sovereignty is very much needs to be from an objective standpoint versus subjective, because when you're in that leadership, you are leading your emotions instead of your emotions leading you.
Yes.
And I know you would know that.
Yeah, that's good.
So there's one more word I want to show you here. Have you seen these two letters before and us talking about this? This is a fairly common theme that Ken and I have brought up, and it's okay if you don't.
Oh, well, if I just said it, it would be raw.
Exactly.
That's
So this is a word that can mean adversary or friend.
Mm.
When you are in the place of completion and you begin to see things subjectively and you are your own spiritual sovereign, people are either going to see you as a friend or a foe. Because when you see things from an objective standpoint and you're not emotionally moved and somebody's coming to you and they're emotionally moved and you're trying to help direct them into an objective form, they can fight against it, because ego's looking for comfort because of the woundings, right?
Yes.
A sovereign has healed all those wounds, and so it's not easily manipulated. So because it's not easily manipulated, people that are coming to you to emotionally manipulate you, they're going to see you as an adversary and not a friend, because you're holding yourself to form and essence where they're all over the place. So this word, there's a lot more being said here about 12, which would be the completion of the breastplate through all the 12 aeons that we have worked through, getting us to the point of the end.
I'm getting all sorts of downloads about this, so yeah.
Oh, good. See, I love that. I love that. If you're not getting any downloads spiritually from it, then why are we doing it?
Yeah.
That's just my thought.
It's the oil that greases the wheel sometimes, but yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay, there we go. Oh, that's what. This is amazing. Oh my goodness.
I love it when I hear that. I'm like, okay. New treasure.
Oh, I love this. I love this. Okay. All right. So here it is in Hebrew. Look at here.
Shin's in between the Ayin and REYSH.
And so it changed into the Samek. It changed into the Samek. Now, why is this so important? Do you know, have we talked about the gematria and 10 and what it represents?
I think so.
Just to remind you, 10 equates to the Yod.
Yes.
It also connects to the Aleph, because through gematria, through reduction math, with the 10, you odd out the 0. So Yod and Aleph are like interchangeable. And of course, Aleph is an upper Yod, lower Yod, Vav connected. Yes. So when we look at 10, the mind, because of the numbering system in the gematria, we begin thinking already of the power that comes from that spark, that vision, that energy source that's in action from the Aleph. And this is connected to it. And why is that important? Oh my gosh, I love this. Because right here we can see that the fire that is within the essence, right, the spiritual essence that's going on in here, is going to be either an adversary to you or a friend. until you move out of the place of immaturity, where you're just worried about the form and building, and you get into the spiritual maturation side, where it then becomes the wedding ring and the signet ring. That is so incredible. So that spirit essence no longer is becoming that adversarial or friend to you. Now you're married to both as both. So that fire doesn't need to burn you on the inside. It's not consuming anything because it did what it needed to. It completed the work. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing.
Wow.
Again, why I love seeing moving it from the Hebrew to the Aramaic and the marriage of the two. It's very interesting to note that this word two as well means an accumulation of the extents of digits. So this is like 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, etc., 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 etc. So it just keeps moving in that multiplication of 10, adding the zeros on and on and on. So this, how can I say this? So this is like the magnification of the power that is being generated through the spirit within as we continue to mature. And then when you get as the wedding ring, dependent upon if you're an adversary or a friend, is going to depend upon how much strength is behind what you need to present as adversary or friend. This is why a mature sovereign has so much more power than an immature sovereign, because all they need to do is tap to the power source of what's going on in here as creator.
Yes.
Whew! Dang. That's some good stuff right there. I got goosebumps on my legs.
Well, and just to connect with so when you said amplifier, quartz crystal is an amplifier of all other crystals.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. Oh, that's so good. What a great dot connect. Oh my gosh. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So good. Okay, so here's one more little nugget. So I decided, hey, let's see what the root of this is. Tithe. There's my husband and I have been talking for a very long time that we've always talked about that father source will always have his tithe. Because we haven't seen it, we've moved from that transition of like, okay, you have to tithe to the church. We saw it spiritually that the tithe, the AKA remnant, will always be within the earth. It doesn't matter what time, what season, what Aeon that we're in, there will always be a remnant that are this. So when you take a look at that as remnant, as a tithe that is here, then these are those who are adversarial friends that have the source of spirit that burns within them, if that makes sense. So this is very exciting to see that as it's all connected. So I'm going to shift us back now to the New Testament, back into what we were saying. So you can see the fullness of what this first word is saying. It's like amazing to identify who this is. Who are the 12 gates and the pearls?
Yeah, I am.
Yes. Yes, you are. Yes, I am. Yes, we are. Again, if we don't make it personal, then why are we doing it? Otherwise, we're just puffing up our head with knowledge that is useless, because it's got to change our heart. Now, this word is awesome. Now, based upon what I just shared regarding this, look at this word for gates is also a word for portal, by the way. Gates, portals.
Portal.
And that should like make you think a lot of stuff going on, because depending on how many rabbit trails you've been around, portals are a big deal. The gates, you are a portal. Right here. Of course, they would use the word gates and not portal. We. I'm trying to catch my human when I say that, because we as translators did this. So catching my human, saying, okay, when we translated this, this is what we chose to do, but it's really a word for portal. But at the time when these were translated, that kind of language wasn't, what the heck is portal? Unless you're like a doorway, right? Like a portal into the kitchen. They wouldn't even really use that word. So it makes sense. But we understand that now, what portal language is like. I do want to show you, I'll see if Janet's got some more because she might have some more information on it, and I don't want to, because sometimes these are limited words, but there's so much more meaning. Okay, gate, door, entrance, and opening. Gate, door, entrance, and opening. Well, that makes sense because REYSH is in the middle. We're talking about adversarial friend. We're talking about the heart as being an opening of that energy. Totally comprehend that. But I want to take a look before we move further. I want to look and see that Hebrew root again, because again, what is going on between the masculine and feminine here? So we are going to pop over and we're going to take a look at the reference for that. Oh my gosh. Okay, the root of it, the root, not with the Hebrew. The root through Aramaic, I didn't check that, means to open, which makes sense because you're opening yourself on the inside. Break through, flow, burst out, and issue forth. So people that are needing their breakthrough, that's what the word portal is.
Wow.
So if you're needing a breakthrough for something, that's why we need to take a look at the letters and saying, because, and I say this repeatedly, the resolve always comes in the letters. The letters tell us what to do. Like, how do we change this? It's like when we were dealing with the issue with the cabal last time, and we were showing about how they can flip their nature and what that all looks like. Well, what's the resolve if you need a breakthrough? So we're going to keep that in mind too. This comes from strong 8179. So let me, 8179. Sha'ar. Oh my gosh, I know where this is leading. Oh, this is so good. Thank you for letting me bring this verse so we could just like hash this out together. I'm so excited because I just saw the word. I'm like, I know where this is going. This is so great. Okay, so an opening door gate, no problem there. Let's trace this back. Let's trace this back. This is so good. Okay, there's many things that are going on here, but take a look at what already we're talking about.
Yeah.
Calculate and reckon. What is that already telling you? Your mind. Your mind. Look at this. To split open, to act as a gatekeeper. So when we think and we're reckoning, it's mind issues. It's not necessarily a heart, because the heart doesn't really think. The heart feels. Only the mind thinks. So this has to do with gatekeepers of the mind.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. So a closed mind or an open mind, you are your own gatekeeper. Now this is, oh my gosh. So in this form that we see, I'm gonna plop over because it's, let me see if it says denominative. What is this? Okay, so it takes us back to gate. So it's SHIN Ein REYSH. So we've got fire, SHIN, spirit like essence, and then Ein REYSH. We have adversarial friend again. So this is saying that your mind, you are the gatekeeper of your own mind, and it's either going to be an adversary to you or your friend. This is directly connected to your ego. Because the ego doesn't feel, the ego thinks, the heart feels. So the ego is either going to be looking at things subjectively or objectively, and that it directly affects your heart as to what you feel about it. So this is so profound. I had no idea. I had no idea that we were going here. Wow. And again, what is missing? What was added?
Tav, and the shin's gone. Shin's gone.
So the fire
it's completed.
Yes.
Completed its work.
So when you have these 12 gates, you are the gatekeeper of your mind. So you have now, the fire is no longer needed, because Shin is Shin Yod Nun, that fallen flesh. The fire gave you the power on the inside to deal with your fallen flesh, and it's not necessary anymore because you completed it.
Yeah, got it.
Oh,
got it.
And then here, and this will really interest you. So we've got the added aleph on the suffix. So what causes us to come through this is completed is when we enter into oneness unity. And connecting with some of the things that we've talked about before, about like joy, when we were talking about joy and suffering, that it was coming and entering into that place of oneness unity, not only in here, because it's always here first, but understanding the oneness with everything. And because of that, again, you're going to be seen as an adversarial friend, dependent upon who comes within your sphere, your frequency. I am going to add one more thing here, and you wouldn't notice this unless you spent some time. And I need to bring this forward because this is so beautiful. REYSH, Ayn, Aleph. Aleph and Hey are interchangeable. You've probably heard me say that before.
What and what are?
The Aleph and the Hey.
Oh, Aleph and the Hey. Okay, yeah.
They are silent letters. That's spirit breath. That is tied to the essence of the feeling of love, of spirit, that which is felt but is not seen. It's the inhales, exhale. That's why breathing exercises are so profound, because it's really the increase of that spirit essence. This, well, it had to be, let's just put it this way. The Hey always has to come before the Aleph, because the Hey is the revelation. It's like, it's that movement that is bringing something to you, like you just said, that you were getting a bunch of downloads based on what we just said. That's the Hey. Things are being revealed to you. This is the finality of it being completed. It is now, that which was unseen is now taken form. So this is the marriage of the masculine and the feminine, the form and the spirit essence that have come into one, but the Hey had to come first. Why am I taking so much time to tell this to you? Because REYSH, Ayn, Hey is the word for shepherd. So these are the shepherds. So I am the good shepherd. It's right here. This is part of what happens when the anointing comes, is because you then are the adversarial friend, just like a shepherd would be in the natural tending its sheep. It's an adversary and a friend to be able to help guide and protect and safeguard the sheep while they're doing what sheep do. So this is really, exactly. So the process shows that you're a gatekeeper, not only as a shepherd, but you're a gatekeeper without your own mind. You've risen into sovereignty. That ego is now in that place where it's no longer controlling or manipulating you. You are now sovereignty. And so now you are the shepherd, which means automatically, even though it's not here, you don't see the lamed, but it's there, because if you're a shepherd, you can't be a shepherd without a staff of authority.
Yeah. Wow. So
beautiful, beautiful. And those first two words, it's like, oh my gosh. Oh,
so good.
See, this is what happens when, this is what happens when I dig things out on the fly, but this is always what happens at the house. And so sometimes Ken and I have to separate ourselves and be in different rooms, because he's studying or doing something or writing, and then I'm studying, and then I'm like blowing champagne everywhere at 3 in the morning. And I'm like, oh, I got to share this with you. I have to share this with you. And I usually have to wait for our sharing time so he can finish. Because there's nothing worse than trying to write when somebody is interrupting your thought.
Yeah. No,
okay, do you want to now, let's move into, because we got time, we're doing good.
Yeah.
For me not having anything prepared, I'm really excited. This is good. I hope you're getting
prepared
stuff.
For today. You were already prepared and pre-sent, so we're all good.
I just am excited to dig these nuggets out now with the pearls and the gates.
Yeah.
All right, so now what do we see? So we already went through the 12, right? Right? Yeah. Well, here's it again. What in the world is going on here? Can you see the difference of the letter? I know you can. What letters were added?
So we have a tav added in the middle and an aleph added at the end.
This is so amazing what it's saying here. So this is like a progression. Oh my god.
This is the word 12 again in English, yeah?
Yeah. Okay. So we went from 12 gates, and it's the same word for 12, but it was written different.
Written differently, yeah.
This is why, like Steve and I have our little thing that we're doing called Lost in Translation. It's because these kind of things, these little subtleties, never get transferred into English. I
Yeah.
mean, what do you do with that? It's like, oh, it's the same
mean,
word, but there's a top in the middle. I don't know what it means. Well, we don't want to write an Encyclopedia Britannica set here, so let's
right, we
just
just
keep it
gotta
at 12.
condense it. Yeah.
Let's just keep it at 12. They won't know the difference.
No, it's really until, at least this is what I make up. It's until the fulfillment of time, until there's
Yes.
enough mature sons
Yes.
who can seek out and find and contain, or have the
Yes.
capacity for the understanding.
Exactly. Exactly. Well spoken. That's exactly what it is. I still laugh at it and chuckle with it though, because
Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, there's.
it makes, I'm like,
So there's
really?
there's the foe with an agenda that still cannot be the agenda when I'm sovereign and it's my friend, because, well, good luck with that. It didn't work.
Exactly. So what is the difference? So we just shared all of that about the gates, and we're talking about,
Yes.
the SHIN is gone, the SEMEC is gone. The most profound thing that I have seen really to date is whenever I see the tav that is in the middle of the word.
Mm.
Because mother and father is not the same as source, origin, creator. I mean, mother and father are like the parental units that are helping us, as the Yod He Vav He, overseeing us in our maturation, parental units that are helping us. When we get a tav right in the middle, we know that tav is completion, right? It's completed.
And with permission, it's a, I mean, it's a pierced tav, and I mean, I see three beyond the. I know there's several marks forming this letter, but there's also three with those extra, whatever you call those. To me, that also speaks completion. The other markings.
Oh, the one underneath, the little one underneath, and then the pierced as well. Yeah, very, very good. I am going to share with you what that line is underneath. It's called a Petach. Oh, so good. Oh my gosh, I'm freaking out here. It's so good. Okay, so the Petach, when you see a line underneath there, the word Petach means to open wide.
Wow.
And it's Pei, Tav, Het. So why this is so profound in the middle of this 12 is because the Tav means completed, finished, end. It can mean signature and fingerprint. It is connected to our heart. It's connected to source, origin, Abba, creator. But because it has the Petach underneath, and it has the Dagesh, that dot that means pierced, this is one, oh, this is so good. So when we talk about pierced, we're talking about intimacy here. Whenever we're talking about that, we're talking about intimacy here. Your heart is fully pierced, has the ability to be intimate, have intimacy with others, because your heart has been fully open. So that means you have the ability through the Pei, Tav, Het, you have the ability to speak forth with authority. Your words will come to completion as you bring forth life. This is huge.
Yeah.
This is absolutely huge. And then it's right in the middle of adversarial friend.
Wow.
And this is what's so profound, is that when one reaches this place in their maturation, their words will never return void. Because they are speaking from the place of authority from within, as source, as origin, as creator, because their heart has been opened wide. But one more thing to add to this, and this is why their words do not return void, and why there's so much power being here, because Tav is spelled Tav-Vav, right? Through the constituent letters, it's Tav-Vav. Tav-Vav is, that word means to be marked. To be marked. You are being marked with the fingerprint and signature of Source, Abba, Creator.
Mm.
It also means to be exempt from judgment. And why is that? Because you completed the journey within your heart. You now have the signature frequency of being connected and completed as one with Creator that has gone through that whole process of our maturation, that has completed their journey. And that is why the Shana, why you don't have to do it again. Because
Yay.
you completed it. You're out of the wheel of the karmic recycling process of having to learn, because the fire burned away everything that it did, and you have now been made whole and healed, no longer needing to go through that loop again, ever again. The only reason why you would want to is if you were coming to help. Like if there was another cycle that you would have completed your journey and you're like, no, these people still need help, so I'm going to come back again.
Mm-hmm.
But this is completion. Ah, so good, because you're fully open. So when you speak these words, these revelations, it pierces others' hearts. It
This is all
pierces
for
them.
me.
Huh?
I said, this is all for me.
Oh, good. See?
Yeah, this is so good.
I'm so glad, because Spirit said, do this one. Finish it up.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we're going to finish up. We're going to finish up. And depending on the rest, because the rest of this verse is, I mean, you got the bottom half, but I didn't even really go through this whole middle half.
Yeah.
But the first top line is very important to connect it with what I shared the other day. So amazing. Okay. We're going to now look at pearls. This is what I thought was so amazing on this one too, because I did take a quick look at it. This word, this is one of those beautiful things that the writer that wrote this chose to use a Greek word instead of anything else, because they could have used a Hebrew word. Dalet resh is the Hebrew word for pearl, but they chose to use a Greek word. And again, the reason why, and this is the brilliancy of the writers, they choose to use a Greek word because of the letters itself. And I can't wait to share this with you. Because the letters themselves are telling a story. So if somebody, it's meant for us to search these things out so that we can open these precious gifts, these love letters that are meant for us. And so there is no Hebrew equivalent, and it's just a Greek word. Now we could go and look at the Greek word for pearl, but I don't want to go there. I don't want to even bring Greek in. I want to look and see why they chose this Aramaic or this Greek word and wrote it out in Aramaic and what's being said. This is so flippin' amazing. I get so excited. Okay. The reason why, what the pearl is, mem resh, and this is appropriate for the time of year that we're into. Mem resh is a word that means myrrh, as in frankincense and myrrh.
Myrrh, bitterness.
Yes, this is bitterness.
Mary, yeah.
Exactly. So Maria or Mariam is one who has gone through the waters of chaos, birthed into the waters of chaos, because mem is that it's a birthing letter. That is birthed in, that entered, because resh, although it does mean top and highest, it also means the poor and destitute. Why this is so profound is that frankincense and myrrh obviously were the gifts that were given by the Magi, but frankincense and myrrh was the exact process that Esther went through, 6 months of myrrh and 6 months of frankincense before she could be chosen to become queen. It was part of her processing of being bathed in these things, the bitter before the sweet, because frankincense is Laban, it means white, and it's Lamed Ben, the son who has the staff of authority, who has been made sweet. Leb, noon, the heart, while in flesh, has been made white and pure and is now sweet. So the process of becoming through the pearl, even in the natural, what happens with the pearl? How are they created?
Through layers
Great
of
sand that is an irritation to the oyster.
Right.
So the oyster is encapsulating itself, making this beautiful pearl because of the bitterness of the irritation that it's
Temptation.
had on the inside. But
Mm-hmm.
look at how beautiful the treasure is once it's found. It's like, oh my gosh. So we take our bitterness and the things that are getting us and we make a pearl out of it.
Yeah.
Because again, let's connect to remember the suffering that we did, the enduring the cross with the
Mm-hmm.
endurance and the suffering, but what it changed and produced was joy.
Joy. Yeah.
Like, here we go. We have to go through the bitterness. So this is telling us, oh, by the way, these gates who went through the process of becoming 12,
Mm-hmm.
the gems on the breastplate, they started their journey in bitterness
Mm.
because they had to go through the process. They had to be birthed in. They came as poor and destitute, but it also means it's the living water. So through the living water that they were raised up from
Mm.
their poor and destitute place, but they had to
Mm-hmm.
experience the walk of bitterness. It's so amazing. Resh, by the way, is the first letter of the word regal. Regal really means to walk. We have it right here. This would be a
Mm-hmm.
short form of the word walk. So the pearls are those who had the bitter walk while they were here.
Mm.
Here's another. This is beautiful. Resh Gimel Noon. If you look at Resh and Noon, that is a word that means songs of deliverance.
Mm.
Ringing cry of songs of deliverance, and the Gimel's in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
Gimel, Gam El, to gather and assemble themselves through the teachings of the Father.
Mm.
Not the teachings of Mother. It was the teachings of the Father that lifted their heart.
Mm.
One last word here, and then we'll talk about the Etha here. This is so amazing. This word right here, Gan. Gan Eden. Do you know what that is? I kind of gave it away when I said
I
it.
mean, the garden. Can. Yeah.
Gan. But this isn't a fallen noon. Gan Eden, when it was written, the Garden of Eden, was written as Gimel fallen noon.
Mm.
The garden is us. The
Mm.
garden is us in our flesh, but this is a risen noon. This is the garden before the fall,
Mm.
because we're the garden.
Yeah.
Everything is within, as within, so without.
Yeah.
So this was the garden before the fall even came, and it's
Mm.
risen flesh. This is new flesh. This is something that has been newly transformed. The garden has been made new, but you had to walk through the bitterness first to get there.
Mm.
And I know I shared with you before the noon vav. Whenever the vav is missing, there's always a yod. They go hand in hand. If there's a vav, there was a
Mm-hmm.
yod. If there's a yod, there's a vav, because
Ah.
it's the power to connect.
Mm-hmm.
So this is saying that the pearls, through their bitter walk, were given the power to complete their journey into oneness, because now this is
Mm-hmm.
the mark of the Father. So we had the mark of the Mother here.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have the mark of the Father.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the totality of the walk. And so what I see as the finality of this verse, or in these first four words, is it's showing our progression of what this looks like to complete our journey. But the last word is, oh, by the way, the reason why these people deserve honor and respect, these gates, is because they had to walk through their bitter journey to get there. So in other words, they have the authority because they experienced it. They know what it was like to turn the bitter to the sweet. They're the ones that took their bitter garden and made it beautiful again, because they chose a spiritual path instead of the material one. Because the noon, and I think I've shared this with you before, whenever you see the noon, it's the mirror. It's noon, vav, fallen noon. So we stand in the position of the risen noon always. We're in that risen position. We just can't see ourselves. Because we're benevolent beings. We just can't see ourselves. So we have to connect as a mirror to someone else and see the fallen portion
Mm-hmm.
with them as their mirror in order to point it and connect it back to us, so that we go, oh, it's not, oh, okay, I need to raise that up. I need to
Yeah.
raise that up. I need to raise that up.
Yes.
This is showing that the mirror has been made complete. There's no fallen essence on it anymore. It is completely risen. So that would be noon, vav, risen noon, no fallen noon. In other words, the mirror shatters. And this is why this whole thing is that you don't have to go through the reincarnation cycle again, because you shattered the mirror, because you became the gates, the portals, the pearl of great price, because it cost you everything.
Wow.
Last thing, Tav Aleph. Tav Aleph is a word that means gate, or I mean, not gate, means enclosure, a guard room, a small space that is guarded. This is, if you're going to connect it to something to make this make more sense, this would be the intimacy of the wedding chamber, or really the Holy of Holies. The smallest room in the tabernacle, because the tabernacle is us. The smallest room is the place of the Holy of Holies. And I shared the other day that the etymology of the word holy means to be whole as uninjured. So they started in their bitter walk, but they ended in their treasure room, in the smallest place that is guarded, because they completed it, and their heart now is whole as uninjured. Oh my!
Injury is just a perception anyway.
It is.
Yeah.
Perception going into perspective, right?
Yeah.
So these, us, when we get to this place, we don't have the perception of it, we have the perspective of it, that it was meant for us to be transformed in order for us to have the authority that we have, to be able to speak these things, that our words don't return void, because they come to pierce others, because we already pierced ourselves and opened our hearts wide open, and we're inviting others to do the same thing. These are the 12 pearly gates. And 12, divine government, spiritually perfected government, sovereignty. Those four words are all about sovereigns, spiritual sovereigns that are standing, that are speaking words to bring forth life to other people. Wow. Incredible.
So good. So magnificent. Wow.
I know. So good.